Hi, it's Rochelle Williams here, the Green Food Safety Coach. I'd like to say thank you for sitting in on these clips and learning a bit about sustainability while you're at it. There's going to be about 10 clips coming up, and each one of them talks about the various really important things, the basic important things as far as sustainability is concerned. They're designed to help you, your family, your friends, your business, and also your staff understand what sustainability is and why it is just so important to us now and into the future. If you want to know more or you've got any questions or comments, please email me directly at anyi@howsafeisyourfood.com.au. Or you can go straight to my Facebook page, which is the Green Food Safety Coach, and you can leave any comments or questions there. And I promise I'll get straight back to you. All right, I hope you enjoyed the clips. I hope you'll learn lots. I hope they're very, very helpful to you. My name's Rochelle. I'm the Green Food Safety Coach, and thank you very much for listening in.
Talk about what does a carbon footprint mean, and what's this greenhouse gases stuff all about anyway? All right, a carbon footprint is the measurement of how much of an impact a business, in fact a home, in fact a person, has on the environment. The bigger the number, the worse the impact. So obviously all businesses should be trying everything they can, not only to reduce money, but also to reduce its environmental impact. In other words, its carbon footprint. Now, the way a carbon footprint is measured is basically by measuring the amount of greenhouse gases that it actually produces. Now, greenhouse gases are produced from vehicles, it's produced from the electricity that you actually purchase, you know, the burning of the coal to produce the electricity. So the more electricity you use, the more greenhouse gases you're going to produce. The next would be gas. The amount of gas that a food business uses, the more it uses, the more greenhouse gases. Okay, so greenhouse gases are basically, to put it in really simple terms, bad gases. It's measured, there's a whole variety of them, but it's measured in terms of a thing called carbon dioxide. So it's not just carbon dioxide, there's a whole lot of other gases in it, but it's measured in terms of carbon dioxide. And it's measured in a thing called tons of CO2 emissions a year. So obviously, the smaller the number, the better it is for the business and the better it is for the environment. So every business should not only be aiming to reduce their money, the expenses, but by doing what they do in a business, they should also be trying to reduce its carbon footprint. Now, carbon footprint, the higher it is, the worse it looks for the business. So from a social point of view, it looks better for the business to have a lower and lower and keep on working toward a lower and lower carbon footprint. Now, here's the important thing to keep in mind in this. Your carbon footprint as a food business isn't only what you do. It's what your suppliers are doing, because there's a carbon footprint or a CO2 emission contributing from every single ingredient that you use. So if you're buying stuff locally, you're going to be having a lower carbon footprint than if you are buying it from, say, overseas, because the cost involved, the cost both to the environment and to you in getting an ingredient from overseas includes a lot more travel, a lot more electricity is used, a lot more fossil fuels are burned, so therefore carbon footprint is higher. So remember, your carbon footprint isn't only what you're doing in your business, but it is what your suppliers are doing as well. Okay, we're going to talk about this thing called triple bottom line reporting. What's it mean? It's the thing that all big businesses are doing. They're doing it as part of their everyday reporting. And managers within that business, in fact, the company itself, is being measured against these things. So what do they mean? Well, it all comes down to the basics of what sustainability is about. And it is this. Sustainability is not about the environment. Sustainability is not about saving money. Sustainability is not about growing into the future. Sustainability is about all of those. It's about what I call doing the right thing. It's about doing the right thing by the business. It's about doing the right thing by the environment. It's about doing the right thing by customers, doing the right thing by staff, doing the right thing by its community, and looking to the future. That's sustainability. Now, triple bottom line reporting is where you're actually measuring all of those things and then reporting back against a standard that's been set. So triple bottom line reporting is totally different to what has happened in the past. In the past, businesses have been measured against financial goals or financial key performance indicators or what needs to be achieved in terms of just purely dollars. That's not working anymore. Now businesses are being measured, or should be measured if they're not already, against three things. Of course, financial still stays and is very, very important, because a business that's not making money is not going to grow, and it's not going to look after its customers, it's not going to look after its staff, and it's not going to continue in the future. So businesses must make money. That's the entire point of being in business. However, businesses should now be being measured also against their environmental impact. In other words, their carbon footprint or their greenhouse gas emissions, and making sure they're lowering those to a standard that's been set either internationally or through regulation or within the business itself. And finally, the third of the triple bottom line reporting is social impact. How is the business contributing to its community? How is the business helping its staff? How is the business communicating with its shareholders? In other words, a business now needs to be measured as a complete picture, both financially, socially, and environmentally. And that's triple bottom line reporting. And big businesses around the world, that's how they're now doing what they do. They set goals. The boards set goals in each of those three areas. Managers then have KPIs, or key performance indicators, based on those goals. And a manager on the floor has to meet financial, social, and environmental goals. In other words, there has to be triple bottom line reporting. Now, the question is this: if big businesses are doing that, and they've realised that they're actually a way of making money by doing it, why isn't small business? And purchasing. Policy. It sounds dry, it sounds boring, but unless every business, in fact every person, has goals, unless a business has goals, it doesn't know where it's going to be going. It just sort of leaps along and hopes that it's going to actually make money. Yeah, if you've got goals, you've got a direction, and that's what a policy sets. A policy sets a direction for a business, and all businesses, big, small, medium, and everything everywhere else, should have policies. Many of these are probably in small business in the owner's head. That doesn't really work. You need to have it written down, because if it's written down, it can be measured. If it's written down, it can be monitored. If it's written down, it can be changed, it can be altered, it can be referred to. If it's in somebody's head, if they get hit by a bus, it's gone. Hopefully no one gets hit by a bus, but if it does, it's gone. You need to have it written down. It needs to be a very clear policy that says what it is the business wants to achieve, what the business is, what it wants to achieve, when it wants to do it. It needs to set clear guidelines for when it needs to be measured. It needs to say who's responsible. It needs to say not necessarily how it's going to be done. Policies don't say how. Policies just say what it is a business wants to achieve. It can be as complex as you want. It can be as simple as you want. The big businesses, the companies, actually have their sustainability policies on their websites. You can go and have a look at some of these and work out for yourself how complicated you want to make yours. But you need to have it written down. It doesn't have to be typed. It can simply be handwritten. That's okay. But it needs to be written down. And you need to actually, when you're writing it, write it and then give it to your staff. Give it to people that you're comfortable with. Give it to your stakeholders and ask their opinions. And then, once you've found out what their thoughts are, add it in. Because a policy is a living, breathing document. It doesn't just sit on the shelf. It doesn't just sit on the wall. It's a document that you need to refer to, and it sets the direction for the business. Now, a key part of a sustainability policy should be your purchasing. Now, purchasing is a very, very important part of sustainability. It's where basically your business part starts. It doesn't matter how good your processes are. If you are not doing the right thing at the supplier end, it's going to be a waste of time. Your purchasing is a very, very important part of sustainability. You should always, where possible, purchase local. You should always make sure that you are purchasing materials that are minimal packaging, because packaging becomes an issue that you then need to control in terms of waste. So Purchasing is a key part of your sustainability program, and you need to have a very clear set of directions, a very clear set of procedures, a very clear procedure with very clear definition for who's supposed to do it, what they're supposed to do. You should have a supplier register that actually says who you're supposed to, who are the only suppliers that you can purchase from, and that needs to be regularly maintained. Okay, stakeholder and communication. When businesses stop and think about who's important in their business, they'll usually think immediately about, staff, suppliers, owners. And they're very important stakeholders, but that's not where the stakeholder list stops. A stakeholder is anybody, any group, any business that has contact with your business in any way. So the local council you have to pay rates to would be one of your stakeholders. The local community groups would be a stakeholder. Maybe even the local school might be a stakeholder. Depends upon what you're actually doing in the community. The state government, various departments that you're involved in with the state government would be a stakeholder. Your accountant, your solicitor, these are all stakeholders. You need to stop and think. Every business, every owner needs to sit down and actually just draw up a list of everybody who in one way or another has contact with the business. Because with that contact comes communication, comes a relationship, becomes building of the business, becomes building of those relationships. And all building of relationships, that's what this social impact, what this social part of the triple bottom line is all about. It's about building up relationships and establishing credibility. That's the social impact part. What impact does a business have? And by knowing who the stakeholders are, knowing how you communicate with them, making sure that you have regular communication with them. Now, let's talk about communication. What sort of communication are we talking about? There's a whole variety of communication methods that a business needs to have and needs to be using. There's communication with the staff, and they might involve things like newsletters, meetings, they might involve notice boards, they might involve emails, they might involve memos. All of these things are a way for the business, minutes for meetings. This is a way for the staff and the staff within a business to communicate with the managers and owners of the business. And the communication's got to be two-way. It's got to be up and down, because ideas from stakeholders are an important part of what a business needs to think about and needs to put in place to make sure it is sustainable. You need to get as many ideas as possible, and you get those from your stakeholders. You get that through communication going up and going down. You've got to be open to the communication. And other forms of communication might be posters, that might be regular meetings with stakeholders. Neighbours are an important stakeholder. What you do on your property, in your business, impacts on those around you. And you can get really, really good deals in terms of purchasing if you work together as a little group in your area. A good one would be, oil. Recycling of oil, cooking oil, instead of a business coming to collect oil just from your business. If you've got a variety of food businesses in your area, work together as a group. You can also get great buying power by having good communication. They're not competitors. You're all going to be there to grow the market, and that's what sustainability is about. So you've got to make sure you work out who your stakeholders are, and you've got to make sure that you have good communication at all levels with all stakeholders. It's the only way your business is going to be sustainable and grow into the future. Hi, this is Rochelle again, the Green Food Safety Coach. And this is the 5th in my series, the Food Business Sustainability Facts series. Now, the first 4 in our series were carbon footprint and greenhouse gas emissions, what they mean, and why they're so important. The triple bottom line reporting, what does it mean, and why should all businesses be doing it? The third was policy and purchasing, and why they are the heart and soul of all sustainability. The next was stakeholders and communication, why you've got to have that under control. Otherwise, you won't grow into the future. Today, I want to talk about the most important people in your sustainability program. They are the Green Team and the Green Champion. They're not important because of the fact that they're given a wonderful title and a wonderful, they're going to get paid more, because mostly they don't. It's because they're the ones that are the most passionate. They're the ones who are going to drive it. They're the ones who are going to remind people. They're the ones who are going to follow it up. They're the ones who are going to be constantly keeping an eye on it for you. The Green Champion. Now, the Green Champion and Green Team, they have different names and different businesses, but they fundamentally have the same role. I'm going to stay with Green Champion and Green Team because it's an easy way of explaining it. The Green Champion is a person who is selected by the business. It might be the owner. It might be a manager. It might be, a factory worker. Probably not a factory worker, because they really do need to have more time to be doing things than what a factory worker probably has, unless they've got allocated time and resources to do it. So generally it'll be a manager or an owner. And that person is the main driver, the point of focus. They're the ones who would report to the managers. They are the ones who would probably even do up a report and present it to the board, potentially. They are the one who chairs the green team meetings. They're the first point of control, first point of contact. And they need to be obvious within a business. It needs to be a person who has incredible passion for the environment. That's a key thing for this. They need to want to do the right thing. They need to have good communication skills. They need to be somebody who is interested in moving the business forward. Somebody who's not just doing it for the money, because most green teams and green champions are not paid. They do it because they believe in it. The green champion is a very important person, and they need to be given enough time and resources to be able to do that job. It's not on top of their job. It's not just their job. It's usually on top of their job, unless a business is big enough to actually have a dedicated person in that role, and that will often then be a sustainability manager or the like. But in a smaller business, it can be almost anybody, and that's the Green Champion. Now, they are a member of the Green Team, and the Green Team should have probably no more than, say, 6 to 9 people in it. The more people, the more confusing it's going to get. And the Green Team should have members from a whole variety of areas, all areas within the business. And they are then basically the point of contact within each of their areas. So they would communicate information down from management and from the minutes and they would communicate information back up, ideas, suggestions back up. They would have a meeting once a month. Minutes would be taken at that meeting. Those minutes become information or have to go out to all staff. So they might go on a notice board. So staff can actually see what this team is doing. This team guides what's happening in terms of sustainability in a business. It isn't just a manager. It isn't just the management team. It needs to be somebody from engineering, somebody from maintenance, somebody from cleaning, somebody from on the floor, somebody from sales, somebody from product development, and they, as you can see, somebody from all different areas, because these people know what's going on in their areas. They can then communicate down to their fellow area members in their area, and they can communicate that back up to the Green Team, who then would then forward that information back up to management. This is a very important team. And businesses that are serious about being sustainable will develop up this team, and they will rely on that team to help drive sustainability. But before we start talking about savings, we need to talk about this, because it is absolutely crucial to sustainability, and it is what I call reduce and replace. Many people now, both at home and in their businesses, are going for the whole idea and putting in and spending fortunes in putting in solar panels to replace their current electricity provider. Now that's wonderful, and we should all be doing it, and it should be a fundamental in all new businesses. It should be in all new business designs, in all designs of all new industrial estates. It should be a requirement that all businesses have solar panels for their electricity. It should also be a requirement that a huge percentage of all of the hot water that is actually produced for businesses and at home should be by using solar hot water. These are just fundamentals. We should be doing it. But before we do that, we should also be seriously, and not just seriously, but we must consider how we're going to reduce the electricity that we're actually using, and the water that we're using, and the gas that we're using, and the waste that we're actually generating. We must think about these things before we even think about replacing what we're actually currently already getting. Simple things like turning off lights when you're not in the room, making sure that the fridge is kept, the outside of the fridge is kept clean so as it can properly function and the motor doesn't have to work as much. Making sure that you only use a full load of water in your washing machine. That you don't use half loads. Half loads use use a lot of water, use the same amount of electricity. So why would we be putting a half load through? You're not reducing, you're simply just not thinking. You've got to reduce before you replace. That's the key to sustainability. You need to do both, but you need to make sure that you're reducing what you use before you replace what you're actually buying. And today we're going to talk about energy savings. We're getting into the savings part of it. So we're starting to talk more about money. And also a little bit about how you can reduce your carbon footprint and greenhouse gas emissions. All right, so let's do number 7. Electricity and gas. Let's start with gas because it's the easiest. Every food business, in one way or another, will use gas. Gas is used for cooking, and the more meals you serve, the more gas you're going to use. It's really that simple. There's nothing much you can do about it. You can't cut it down. That's the way it is. There are a few things you need to consider first. Firstly, many businesses will put their gas onto pilot when they're out at lunch or they're not in the room, and they'll turn it to pilot at night and then just leave it running on pilot all night. That's a bit silly. Turn it off at night, turn it back on in the morning. It's going to be a little bit more hassle to turning it on and turning it off, but just think, even on pilot, it's using gas. So if you leave it running all night, you're going to be using gas, and nobody's cooking. What's the point in having it turned on if you're not actually cooking? Put it on pilot when you're not using it, between service. Turn it off when you are not using it at all. So turn it off at night, turn it back on in the morning. And here's the thing, you don't need to turn it on. You can turn it on, from pilot. You can turn it on to pilot about half an hour before you actually need to start cooking. And the rest of the time, leave it turned off. The other important thing is this: get the best deal you can from your supplier. Talk to other suppliers, find the best deal you can possibly do, and use that. Okay, that's gas. Electricity is another story entirely. Everybody is talking about putting in solar electricity, and that's fabulous and it's wonderful, and what it does is it replaces the current electricity you're using with a free source. It costs you money to put in, and you've got to work out the cost benefit of it. So in other words, what's the payback period? How long does it take to actually get the money back for what you've invested? Now, that can be a bit of an issue, and don't go into it lightly. Don't just go and buy a solar electricity system and go, yay. Work out what it's going to cost you in the long run and what the payback period is. Replacing it is wonderful, but there is no point in replacing electricity supply unless you first reduce. So simple things like get rid of those old light globes and put in environmentally friendly, energy efficient ones. You must do it. It's worth the expense. Do it. You can do the same thing with fluorescent lights. The long fluorescent lights. Replace those. They are more energy efficient, but there are even more energy efficient versions around now. Do it. Make sure that everything, if a light's not needed, turn it off. You'd be amazed how much electricity that actually saves. Electricity savings are all about reducing your usage. Reduce the usage and you will reduce your bill. That is that simple. Make sure that things are properly maintained. Make sure that fans are cleaned. Make sure that vents are cleaned properly, because the more dirt and stuff on a vent, the more the equipment has got to run. Less stuff, in other words, good airflow, better efficiency. Use the most efficient equipment you can. Buy the highest rated energy efficient equipment you can. Comes back down to your purchasing policy. Energy savings are all about reducing what you use and being cost efficient. And also get the very best tariffs you can. Get the very best deal you can from your suppliers. We've got a deregulated market in Australia, so Go and search for the best deal you can. Don't just accept whatever your current supplier is giving you. Okay? Today I want to talk about water. In Queensland recently we've had big floods. We're calling it the big wet. And for a little while afterwards there was this thing of water everywhere and not a drop to drink, as the water treatment plants basically had to come back online and kick themselves back in again and rapidly try and produce good quality drinking water. Now, if that wasn't a wake-up call to a lot of businesses, it should have been. Water is the single most precious thing that we have on Earth. We are the water planet. We're the blue planet. Why are we called blue? Because of the amount of water on this planet. It is the only planet that can sustain life. Why is that? Because we've got a really good environment, good atmosphere for it, and we have water. You can't waste it. Businesses, unfortunately, food businesses have to use water. It is a part of what we do. We use it as an ingredient. We use it as cleaning. We use it for processing. In some places it's actually used for transporting. It is a major part of every food business. Without it, we would not have a food business. It is that simple. But we are very bad at managing our water use. A dripping tap, a simple dripping tap, can add dollars and dollars a year to a water bill. A simple dripping tap can waste lots and lots of water. Now we have two lots of water. We have potable, in other words drinking water, and we have non-potable water, in other words water that can't be used for drinking or for food contact. There are some big food factories in Australia, big food factories, who actually they can actually sustain themselves. They are completely able to manage without buying any water from local councils or water utilities, because they are able to process and clean and manage their water so well. Unfortunately, at this point, they can't do that. They're not doing that because many people do not like the idea, are not comfortable with the idea of using recycled water as an ingredient or as a processing aid. So these companies continue to buy small amounts of water. But what are they doing? They're doing major things in their business. They're reducing their use significantly. They are majorly reducing their use. You don't have to have a full flush toilet that's pumping down 15 litres. You can quite easily get away with 6 or 7. So reduce the amount of water in your toilet flush, for example. Don't let any dripping taps ever go without somebody doing something about it. If you see one, it's not, oh yeah, it's a dripping tap, we'll cut around to it. No, you need to get it fixed right away. We need to make sure that at all times, water and managing and reducing water use is something that every single person in a business should be aware of and do everything they can about. You can use the dishwasher, for example. You should never ever put a part load through the dishwasher, because the amount of water you're using in a part load is exactly the same as a full load. So why not always do a full load? Always. The same with glass washing machines. Never ever put a part load through. Always put a full load. Save it and put it through as a full load. And that's stuff that we can all do. Simple things we can all do. Cafes, restaurants, workers, factory workers, doesn't matter. We're all responsible. I want to talk about waste and waste management. Food businesses and waste are like two peas in a pod. You cannot have one without the other. Isn't there a song like that? Anyway, waste is an inevitable result of a food business. You will get it, it will produce it, and you have to then manage it. Up till now, many food businesses have simply seen it as a cost of business and just, paid for the waste to go away, or paid for the treatment of the water that's going down the drain. You don't have to do that anymore. But you have to manage your waste. And that starts at purchasing. It doesn't start at the rubbish bin. It starts at purchasing, which is why we spoke about that in the purchasing, in number 3 in our series about purchasing. You need to buy, as a business, the minimal amount of stock. You need to buy the stock that has the minimal amount of packaging. But before you even do that, you need to stop and think, do I need this thing? Do I really need this? Do I need that material? Because you've then got to hold it. You've got to purchase it. You've then got to manage the waste that results from it. Waste management is a major issue in your business. Many businesses, up to now, particularly small businesses, don't even stop to think about it. But it is a major cost saving if you can manage it. And it has a huge impact on the environment, because all the waste that goes to the tip or to the rubbish dump, it's just producing methane. It's just bad for the environment. If your business can reduce the amount of waste that's going to tip, in fact, there are businesses, big businesses now, that have no waste at all going to the tip because they are using better techniques. Recycling is one, and everybody thinks about that. It's recycling, it's reusing, it's reworking, it's thinking about what you're actually going to do with what comes out of your production, out of what you're doing. In San Francisco, for example, it is a requirement that all 5,000 plus of the restaurants, cafes, food venues in that city must compost their food, their waste food. That is now mandatory. So there are lots of things you can do to reduce your waste, and you must be practicing them, because every tonne that you send to the tip costs you money. Every tonne you send to the tip is contributing to your carbon footprint. And remember, you want your carbon footprint to be as small as possible. Reduce your waste, reduce your carbon footprint, improve your bottom line. Hi, it's Rochelle again. In the last of the Food Business Sustainability Fact Series, I'm the Green Food Safety Coach. And so far, we've done 9 of the 10. Let's have a quick sum up. The first was carbon footprint and greenhouse gases. What do they mean and why are they so important? Next was the triple bottom line reporting, what it means and why all businesses should be doing it. We followed that with policy and purchasing, and why every business should have a policy and why purchasing should be the heart and soul of sustainability, in fact, everything the business does. Stakeholders and communications was then next, and the vital role that communication plays in managing, controlling, and in fact being sustainable. The Green Team and Champion was the next, and in that we spoke about how important this group of people is to managing, controlling, coordinating, in fact being sustainable. We then had a bit of a chat about replacing and reducing. There's no point in replacing a source of electricity, water, or whatever it might be, unless you first reduce your usage. Reducing your usage is the key to sustainability. Then we had a chat, we started to get into the savings parts. So we spoke about energy, how you can save electricity, what you need to think about, and the same with gas. Then we spoke about water and the importance of saving water, the most precious thing we have on our earth. Then we spoke about waste and just how important waste is to reducing your carbon footprint. And today, and the last in the series, I want to talk about vehicles. Every business, in one way or another, has a vehicle, whether it be the owner's car, which is owned by the business or, paid for in part by the business, or whether it be the big trucks that many of the big factories have, or a little food business that just has a little delivery truck. Doesn't matter. Vehicles and food businesses also, just like water, just like waste, go together. They are a key part. We've got to get the food out to the people somehow, and vehicles are the way we do it. Now, vehicles have 2 parts. One, the vehicles that are responsibility and controlled by the business itself. Then there is the transport part, which is the business pays for somebody else to do the transport. Both of these contribute significantly to our greenhouse gases. The stuff you put fuel into a car, the motor burns it, and then what comes out the other end is some pretty disgusting stuff that then goes up into our atmosphere and creates big problems. Stuff coming out of the back of that car, it contributes significantly to the greenhouse gas problem we have and makes the business's carbon footprint bigger. So the thing is, you want to reduce your usage. You want to either reduce the usage or you want to replace it with an alternative. Where possible, always use fuels. Always, let's come back to the fuels. Always minimise the number of trips. The big thing with vehicles is about reducing the usage. So what you need to do is plan the routes. Plan it so as you're not doubling back. Plan it so as it's a straight trip. Plan it so as it uses the minimal number of fuel. There's a major delivery courier company that actually will only turn one direction because they've found, or particularly in the States, they've found that by sitting at the lights and having to turn the other direction, it significantly increases their fuel consumption. So they plan their routes so their vehicles only turn one direction. And that has helped reduce their fuel usage significantly. So reduce your fuel usage by planning your routes. When you go out, don't just do one thing when you do the trip. Do as many things as possible while you're out to reduce the usage. For example, with my business, I am now only going out from my office 1 day a week, if I can do it, and doing everything I can while I'm out. This reduces my vehicle usage. The other thing is you need to also make sure that your drivers are driving sensibly, driving so as they're not just, overusing fuel. Drive carefully, drive properly. Now, also, there's a wonderful things out there called biofuels. There's wonderful sources of fuel that are now starting to come through that vehicles can use. Analyze, when you're going to buy a vehicle, buy the most efficient one you can. Vehicle usage and transport is a massive contributor to your carbon footprint. It's a big expense as well. So think seriously about reducing that and methods you can do. My name's Rochelle. I'm the Green Food Safety Coach.
So, as I said, I'm Rochelle. I'm the Green Food Safety Coach. If you want more information or you'd like to ask a question, go here to my Facebook page, The Green Food Safety Coach. Leave a message, leave a question, leave anything, and I will get back to you just as soon as I can. And if you would like a free ebook about many foodie facts, food safety, environmental, a whole variety of foodie facts, go here to www.500foodfacts.com. Download it and enjoy it and amaze your friends and family. All right, I'm Rochelle. I'm the Green Food Safety Coach. Till next time.